In this video, we're going to customize a shirt using HTV and a pre-designed cut file. If you've not downloaded your design yet, you want to pause the video, grab your file, and come right back. Hi, I'm Brenda Lambert. I'm a TJC licensed instructor for Silhouette, and you've just found Silhouette Success. I'm going to be uploading quite a few tutorials in the next couple of months, so if you want to continue crafting with me, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget the notification bell, and YouTube will let you know every time I upload a new video. Now, if you have gathered all of your things and you're ready to go, we can head over to Silhouette Studio. Let's do it. Once you're in the software, the first thing you want to do is page setup. You'll select your machine. Select your mat, and then set your media size. I have mine set at 12 by 12. We'll scroll down and make sure that show cut border is checked at the bottom, and that's going to bring up a red line all the way around your mat. You want to keep your design elements inside of that line. Let's go up to File, click on that. It'll bring up a pull-down menu. Click on Merge, and that's going to bring up your documents, your files. You're going to find the Be Mine Valentine download, double click, and it'll bring it onto the mat. Once it's on the mat, I'm going to hit Send up in the top right-hand corner there because I want to show you the cut lines and how they should look. Once you're in the send panel, you'll see that the outline is a bright red. That's exactly what we want. That's telling us that the lines are going to cut. While we're here, we're going to make sure our settings are correct. I have it at Heat Transfer Smooth, which is what I want. But if you click on that arrow, you'll see that there's a whole list of things that you can choose from. My blade is set to auto cut. The auto blade is detected. And if you're running a Cameo 4 or a Portrait 3, you want to bump your blade depth up by 1. The rest of the settings should be fine. And we'll head back to Design. We're going to make sure that the design is the proper size. It should come in at a little over 9.5 inches, which is usually okay for a shirt. But if you want it larger or smaller, you can scale it by grabbing the corner there and just moving it in and out. Now, once your design is sized, you want to right click, and it's going to bring up that box. You're going to select Flip Horizontally. This is extremely important when you're working with HTV. Now, right click again, select Ungroup. And that's going to release all of the different groups so that you can move them individually. But we're going to go back for just a second because we want to group the top Be Mine and Valentine together before we move it off the mat. So we're going to right click, hit group, and then move it. We can also move the second Be Mine over off of the mat, and then take the third one and move it up to the top of the screen in the left-hand corner, and that's where it will cut. Okay, we're ready to prepare our first mat. What you want to do now is take a look at the design on the screen and see the dimensions that we need. This design is coming in at almost 10 inches across and 2 inches tall. I always like to cut my HTV just a little bit larger to be on the safe side. A lot of people like to cut it close. It's your personal preference. So let's switch over to cutting the vinyl and getting it on the mat. I always cut my HTV to size before I place it on the mat. And this can be done in a few different ways. You can either just simply use a pair of scissors, or you can use a paper cutter, or you can use the self-healing mat, the straight edge, and the razor blade, which is my preferred method, mostly because it leaves a nice clean line for the next time I need to use this vinyl. So I'm just going to lay it out here, and I need a little over 2 inches by 10 inches. Make sure it's all lined up. I'm going to Get that out of the way there. All right, let's put it at 2.5 inches, just to be on the safe side. We won't come up short that way. All right, set that to the side. When working with HTV, you always want to make sure you put the shiny side down. You can see it's very shiny. You flip it over, and there's a matte side. You want the matte side up, shiny side down on your cutting mat. Now, your cutting mat comes with a protective cover. We need to peel this off, but I suggest replacing it after every use, or else it gets furry and dusty and it just doesn't stick well anymore. Now, if you remember on the design screen, our design was in the upper left-hand corner of the design mat. So that's where we're going to place our vinyl. Make sure it's lined up evenly and just smooth it out. Okay, so when your mat is ready and your vinyl is loaded, the next step is to get your cameo ready. You want to make sure it's on. The power button's on the side here. You want to make sure your blade is in properly. If it's in properly, you'll see no gaps along here. And by the number 1, there will be a blue dot. That means you've pushed the lever in all the way to hold the blade tight. Next, you want to take the mat and line it up with the white line and hit the up arrow to load it. Then we're going to go into the software and send it through. Back in the software, we're going to hit send, check our cut lines, then go down to the bottom and click send again. A message will pop up and you want to choose send as is. Okay, once your machine has finished cutting, what you want to do is, before you unload it, check to make sure that it's a clean cut. And you can do this by taking your weeding tool, by lifting up a small corner of the design. This looks like it has cut properly, so we can go ahead and unload the mat from the machine. Okay, so you're going to unload the vinyl from the mat, and you're going to just kind of rinse and repeat for the other 2 colors. Move that off of the mat, move the second color onto the mat, get it in the right place, hit send. The next step in our project is weeding the vinyl. We're going to remove all of the excess vinyl from the design, and we're going to leave the design on the sticky backing. And just start with one corner, lift it up, and then peel. This should peel relatively easy. HTV is a lot easier to weed than permanent vinyl. So I'm going to go through and weed this, and I'm going to cut the sound out and speed it up just a bit because the crinkling can get a bit annoying. Right, we have our pieces cut and weeded. You may have noticed that I was sticking the extra bits and pieces to the backing for the HTV. Some people will use a lint roller, which works well. Some people will use a rolled up ball of tape, and that's fine too. But I found there's no waste with this. You just stick it to a corner of the backing. But if you do that, you want to make sure that you cut that out before you press your design. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that. And then we're going to go over to the press. It's the final step. We're almost there. Okay, I have got my press set up and it is warming. There's a few things I want to go over real quick. You can start out with a regular household iron. A lot of people say don't. You probably won't get professional results. I wouldn't sell anything necessarily that you do with a home iron, but you can get the job done with it. When you're using iron, you want to set it to the highest setting, no steam, and make sure that you put pressure on it. So kind of lean into it, and don't iron with it. You want to just press down, move to another spot, and press down again. I've also used the handheld press. Again, these are, they get the job done. It's a little more difficult to work with. You really, really, really need to put the pressure on these. Although they are a little bit better than the home iron because there is not a steam option and there's a larger surface area for it to work with. So I have a few things that I work with that make things a little bit easier. I have the Teflon sheets. They're reusable. You can use parchment paper, and that's fine. You just have to keep replacing it. Then I have the guide for my HTV. They're a lifesaver. It makes everything so much easier. You put the template around the neck seam. It lines up the center for you. Perfect every time. Highly recommend those. Okay. This is the shirt that I'm working with today. You can use a t-shirt, you can use a sweatshirt, whatever you'd prefer. You want to make sure that you pre-press your shirt before you put the HTV on. So that's what I'm going to do now. It's a little bit difficult working backwards with my press, but we'll get it right here. You want to make sure that if you're working with a hoodie, the seam and the hood and the pockets and everything are out of the way. You want a nice flat surface to get any wrinkles out. And pre-pressing gets the moisture out of the fabric as well. So once that's all smoothed out there, you just want to press down for about 5 seconds or so. And you can do that while the press is heating up. It doesn't have to be up to 315 just yet. Okay, we needed to move the camera down just a little bit so you could see what I was doing here. I've placed my guide on the shirt. I've lined up the collar with the top of the guide, and the arrow is pointing at the middle seam for the hood. That should be lined up perfectly. I've went ahead, pre-pressed it to get the moisture out, and we're going to start with the largest piece. And we're going to start with the largest piece because this is the one that's going to help us line up all of the other vinyl. If you place it on there, just so. So we're just going to flatten that out. We're going to remove the guide because it will melt if you press it. And then we're going to cover with a Teflon sheet. And we're just going to tack this down. We're only going to press for 2 or 3 seconds just so that it stays stuck. Remove the Teflon sheet. And peel away the backing. The next one we're going to do is the bottom B-line, and this may seem a little bit counterintuitive, but because it has all of these bits cut out here, we're going to be able to line it up just right. You want to make sure the spacing is the same all the way around there. All right, let's flatten that out. Put our Teflon back on. And press again for 2 or 3 seconds, just to tack that down. Can pull away this backing sheet. Now this one seems to be a cool peel. The edge of it does not want to come up, or the edge of it is trying to come up. So we're going to let that sit for just a second while it cools. And then peel it up. Okay, our second layer is on. Third layer, again, you want to make sure everything is lined up just right before you close that press down on it. Smooth it out. Put your protective sheet down. Press for 2 to 3 seconds just to get it stuck. I think my press may need some oil. It's a bit jumpy there. Okay, remove that backing. And now we're going to do our final press. This is the one that's going to be done for the 12 seconds. So you want to make sure at this point you definitely have it covered because there's no protective backing on there. If you don't have a sheet down, either parchment paper or Teflon sheet, then the vinyl is going to stick to your iron or your press and it's going to be a mess for sure. All right, so let's set the pressure, hit enter, and that will start my timer. Okay. Remove the Teflon sheet, and you have made yourself a Valentine's Day shirt. I think it looks awesome. Okay, so that's really all there is to it. Let me know how you did down in the comments below, or if you have any questions or want something you want to see in the future, just put it in the comments section. Now, the next video I have coming out is going to explain exactly how I made the design. We're going to cover text, we're going to cover fonts, we're going to cover changing colors, sizing your designs, and also we're going to go over the modify panel, which has a lot of different choices that will help you throughout your designing. It's a little bit complicated, but it is one of the most useful functions in the software. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and like and subscribe down below. Hit the notification bell so you know exactly when that video comes out. And I will see you then. Bye-bye.